Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. We truly hope you're doing well today and feeling supported wherever you're watching from. In this video, we're talking about Kelly Ripa and Mark Consuelos. Not through gossip or speculation, but through a moment that reminded many people why they've connected with this couple for so long. What unfolded wasn't about headlines or shock value. It was about honesty, emotion, and the kind of vulnerability that feels rare on television. If you followed Kelly and Mark over the years, you know they're usually quick with humor and warmth. But this time, the tone was different. It was quieter, heavier, and far more personal. Moments like these matter because they reflect real life, the kind filled with uncertainty, love, and resilience. Stay with us through the end as we reflect on why this moment resonated so deeply with so many viewers. A studio that felt different. That morning, the studio looked the same as it always does. Bright lights, familiar chairs, and a space built for conversation. Yet something felt different. The energy was subdued, almost still, as if the room itself sensed the weight of what was about to be shared. Kelly sat upright, composed but noticeably quieter, her usual effortless smile absent. Mark sat beside her, attentive but reserved, his posture tense in a way viewers rarely see. There was no banter to open the segment, no playful exchange. Instead, there was a pause, one that lingered just long enough to be felt. It wasn't uncomfortable, it was human. These are the moments when television stops feeling like television and starts feeling like life. The silence didn't demand attention. It earned it, reminding everyone watching that sometimes the most powerful moments are the quietest ones. When public faces meet, private reality. For years, Kelly Ripa and Mark Consuelos have represented a partnership built on laughter, honesty, and mutual respect. They've shared stories about parenting, marriage, and work with a tone that always felt genuine. But this moment revealed another side, the one that exists when the cameras don't matter. Kelly spoke carefully, choosing her words with intention, not for drama, but for clarity. Mark listened closely, his presence steady even as emotion surfaced. What they shared wasn't a detailed explanation or a declaration. It was an acknowledgement that life doesn't always follow a script. Even people who seem strong, confident, and prepared can be caught off guard. The message wasn't about fear itself, but about how moments of uncertainty can change perspective. It reminded viewers that behind public roles are private lives, shaped by the same worries, hopes, and emotions we all face. Strength looks different than we expect. Mark's emotional response stood out not because it was dramatic, but because it was honest. He didn't try to explain it away or minimize it. Instead, he allowed himself to be seen as he was in that moment, reflective, affected, and open. Society often defines strength as silence or control, but what unfolded challenged that idea. Kelly's presence beside him reinforced that strength can also mean leaning on someone else. Their interaction wasn't rehearsed or polished. It was instinctive. A hand held, a shared look, a quiet reassurance. These small gestures carried more meaning than words ever could. Viewers weren't witnessing a breakdown. They were witnessing trust. It was a reminder that emotional openness doesn't weaken a person. It deepens connection. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is admit that you're feeling something deeply. How uncertainty changes everyday life. Kelly reflected on how moments of uncertainty have a way of reshaping daily routines. Suddenly, ordinary plans feel more significant. Conversations become more thoughtful. Time feels more precious. She didn't describe fear as overwhelming, but as persistent, a quiet presence that changes how you approach each day. Mark echoed this sentiment, explaining how reflection often comes in unexpected moments like late nights or quiet mornings, not because something is wrong, but because awareness has sharpened. They spoke about learning to slow down, to appreciate what often gets rushed past. The future wasn't described as bleak or defined, just unknown. And that uncertainty, while uncomfortable, became a reason to be present. Their words resonated because they didn't offer solutions. They offered recognition that many people live in this space of not knowing, doing their best anyway. Family is the center of everything. When the conversation turned to family, the tone softened even further. Kelly and Mark spoke about their children not with worry, but with intention. They emphasized the importance of reassurance, consistency, and love. Rather than burdening them with fear, they focused on maintaining normalcy and openness. Mark shared how being seen as dad, rather than anything else, grounded him. That role, he explained, puts everything into perspective. Kelly added that family has a way of anchoring you, especially when life feels uncertain. These reflections weren't dramatic. They were deeply relatable. Many viewers understood exactly what they meant. That family isn't just who you live with, but who reminds you why resilience matters. In moments of uncertainty, love doesn't disappear. It becomes more visible. And sometimes, it's the simplest routines that offer the most comfort. Fame doesn't cancel. Real life. One of the most powerful insights Kelly shared was that visibility doesn't equal immunity. No matter how successful or recognized someone is, life can still interrupt without warning. She spoke honestly about how moments away from the spotlight reveal how little status matters when facing personal challenges. Mark agreed, noting that perspective shifts quickly when priorities become clear. There are no titles or accomplishments that protect against uncertainty. What matters, instead, is support, connection, and presence. This reflection resonated deeply because it stripped away the illusion of separation between celebrities and audiences. In moments like these, everyone stands on equal ground. Viewers weren't watching public figures. They were watching two people navigating something deeply human, and that honesty bridged the distance fame often creates, replacing it with empathy and shared understanding. Redefining what it means to cope. Rather than presenting themselves as perfectly composed, Kelly and Mark acknowledged that coping isn't linear. Some days feel manageable, others don't, and both are valid. Kelly spoke about learning to ask for help, to speak openly, and to stop expecting herself to be strong all the time. Mark added that showing up, even imperfectly, counts. This reframing was subtle but impactful. It reminded viewers that resilience doesn't mean having all the answers. It means continuing forward with care and intention. Therapy, conversation, and trusted friendships were mentioned not as fixes, but as supports. The emphasis wasn't on overcoming something dramatic, but on navigating life with honesty. That message landed quietly, but powerfully. It's okay to not be okay, as long as you don't face it alone. How viewers responded. The response from viewers was immediate and heartfelt. Messages poured in from people who felt seen by the moment, people facing uncertainty of their own, or supporting someone they love. Kelly later shared how meaningful it was to read those messages, especially during quiet moments. They weren't comments seeking updates or details. They were expressions of solidarity. Mark noted how powerful it felt to realize that vulnerability creates connection. The audience didn't respond with curiosity. They responded with compassion. That distinction mattered. It showed that people aren't always looking for answers. Sometimes they're looking for honesty. This shared moment became larger than the broadcast itself. It turned into a reminder that empathy travels far, and that speaking openly, even briefly, can make others feel less alone. Choosing love over fear. As the segment drew to a close, there was no attempt to wrap things up neatly. Kelly simply turned to Mark and reaffirmed what had been evident all along, that they face life together. Mark's response was simple and sincere. There was no promise, no dramatic declaration, just commitment. That simplicity carried weight. It reminded viewers that love isn't loud in moments like these. It's steady. The future wasn't defined, and it didn't need to be. What mattered was presence, mutual support, and trust. Their exchange wasn't meant to inspire hope through certainty, but through connection. And that distinction made all the difference. Sometimes choosing love isn't about being fearless. It's about continuing forward, even when fear exists, and refusing to let it lead. A moment that lingers. Long after the cameras moved on, the impact of that moment remained. Not because of what was said, but because of how it was said. Kelly and Mark didn't offer a storyline or an update. They offered authenticity. In doing so, they reminded viewers that life is ongoing, imperfect, and deeply shared. Every day isn't defined by clarity, but every day can be shaped by intention. This wasn't a conclusion, it was a pause. One that encouraged reflection rather than speculation, and perhaps that's why it resonated so strongly. In a world full of noise, they chose honesty. In a space built for performance, they chose reality. And in doing so, they showed that love, quiet, committed, and genuine, remains one of the most powerful forces we have.